Your favorite President Joe Biden issues an executive decree. By the end of the month, you need to turn in all of your silver, all of your gold. You'll get paid $2,000 per ounce for your gold and $25 per ounce for your silver. This is a matter of national security. It's your national duty as an American citizen to turn in your metals because your government needs it. How does that make you feel? Has it happened in the past? Let's look at the history of gold confiscation, or maybe we want to call it nationalization in the United States of America. And how likely is it to happen? I get this question all the time. I don't have a crystal ball, but we can look at the history, look at the present day situation, and come up with a pretty good idea as to the likelihood of this happening. Let's get started right now. Nothing gets us silver and gold enthusiasts riled up like the idea of a confiscation. I mean, come on, man, just turn in your gold and silver. It's your national duty. That's exactly what the government told the U.S. citizens in 1933 in the height of the Depression. I'm giving you a great history lesson right now. Back then, the dollar was backed by gold. 40% of the dollar was backed by gold, and the government was running out of money. They wanted to create more money to try to get out of the Depression. But guess what? They couldn't just print money back then because they had to have the gold to print the money. So they told all the United States citizens, it's now illegal for you to own gold. You need to turn it in. You've got like 2 or 3 months, and we're going to pay you like $20. The price of gold was set back then at around $20. So all the nationalistic American citizens, people felt much more pride in their country and trusted the government much more back then. They turned in all their gold, and then shortly thereafter, the United States government revalued gold from around $20 per ounce to $35 per ounce. That was a real unsavory move by the government. That would have made me mad. But that allowed Roosevelt to have a bunch more money to try to do all these work programs that built all the stuff around the country and help get the country out of the Depression. So it's really interesting to remember, number one, they needed more dollars, okay? The dollar was backed by gold. So they had to, number one, take everybody's gold, which allowed them to print more dollars. But on top of that, they also then revalued gold after they took it from all the citizens, which allowed them to print even more dollars. Now, it remained illegal to own gold in the United States of America until 1974, when I was just a 4-year-old boy. And I remember that day. I was so happy that I could finally own gold again. That was shortly after, in 1971, when President Nixon temporarily, yes, temporarily, took the United States of America off the gold standard. And I'm sure we'll be heading back to the gold standard because isn't there something in the United States Constitution about gold and silver being money? Hey, this video's not about that. It's about you and your gold and silver and it getting confiscated and the likelihood of that happening. And I've got some good news for you. I don't think it's going to happen. We're going to cover the reasons why in the second part of the video. But first, I've got something more important to tell you. Yes, you. Thanks for joining me here in Ron's Basement. We navigate these tough, choppy waters we're in. We don't have to be alone. You can always join me here. Leave comments in the comment section below. I mean, we are like a sliver of the population. So it's not easy for us to find other people to talk about these touchy subject matters with. Most of them look at us like we're crazy. We know we're not, and when you come here, we can hang out together, we can support each other. It's always an honor for me to have you here. I'll put out a video every day. You got a new friend? You can subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, leave a comment. Now let's talk about why these gold and silver, for that matter, confiscations aren't going to happen. Number one, the world is much, much different now. The US dollar rules the world. The dollar is everywhere. That's much, much different than 1933. So if today the U.S. government were to come out and say, We're confiscating all Americans' gold, all the people throughout the world, and there are tons of dollars spread all around the world. It's still the dominant currency used for trade. It's still the dominant currency used as a reserve asset by a lot of the central banks. If they heard that the U.S. government was confiscating gold, they would freak out and sell their dollars. And you know what they would do? They would buy gold too. Don't forget that since 1971, when President Nixon temporarily took us off the gold standard, gold and silver have been the enemy of the dollar. The dollar went from being backed by gold to being backed by essentially oil. That's a subject for yet another video. But over that period of time, it's like a divorce, right? The dollar was divorced from gold. Typically, when there's a divorce situation, the two parties don't think very fondly of each other. So if the U.S. government suddenly said, we're going to start buying all the gold, we want all the gold, the rest of the world would also do that, and the dollar would just literally implode immediately. They don't want that to happen. And the second part to this equation is, if the U.S. government did get to that point where they were that desperate that they had to confiscate the citizens' gold, gold and silver would have already realized great value. The dollar would have already crashed for them to have gotten to that point to have to go to that extreme measure of the President of the United States saying that once again, 100 years later, we're going to confiscate everybody's gold. It wouldn't matter. You would have already realized great gains in your precious metal holdings. You could have already traded them out for real estate, for farmland, for oil land, for other real assets. So what do you think? To me, given the world's current financial and monetary structure with the dollar being so dominant, they aren't going to confiscate gold. And number two, if they do, we would have already realized our value. The bear would definitely have the blindfold off at that point, because don't forget, the bear gets his blindfold taken off when gold hits $2,500. Let me know what you think. Let me know that you'll come back to Ron's Basement, because I'll be looking forward to seeing you next time.